Good evening, dear thrill-seekers and ghastly guests. Tonight, I invite you aboard a most unusual journey with a tale that chills the bone and curdles the soul. We shall embark on a spectral ride on the last train home, a locomotive not bound by time nor tethered to the mundane tracks of the living world. Picture this. A train shrouded in the mists of mystery, each carriage a realm of nightmares and lost souls. Its passengers, unwittingly trapped, are tormented by their deepest fears and darkest memories. Our protagonist, the tormented artist Leo, finds himself among these spectral passengers, each with a story more harrowing than the last. But beware, my dear listeners, for this is no ordinary train. Its conductor, a creature of the night, shepherds these lost souls, his intentions as dark and twisted as the path the train travels. So settle in, if you dare, and prepare for a journey through the twisted corridors of guilt, grief, and the ghostly unknown. Welcome to the last train home.
Chapter 1. The Frayed Edges. The last brushstroke fell upon the canvas in Leo's studio, a room where silence often spoke louder than words. Shadows clung to the corners, reluctant to part with the secrets they held. In this sanctuary of his, the air was thick with the scent of oil paint, a fragrance that had become the essence of Leo's existence. The paintings that adorned the walls, each a surreal landscape birthed from his deepest reveries, watched over him. Silent guardians of a mind that seldom rested. Outside, the city heaved a sigh under the weight of the twilight sky. Streetlights flickered to life, casting a glow that struggled to penetrate the fog blanketing the urban expanse. The city, with its towering structures and endless echoes of distant lives, felt both oppressively close and impossibly far from the confines of Leo's studio. It was as if two worlds coexisted, separated by the thin veil of his window. One out there, pulsating with life, and the other in here, echoing with the whispers of thoughts unspoken. On his canvas, a landscape of dark forests and swirling skies stretched out, a world born from the amalgamation of his day's emotions and the fragmented images of his latest nightmare. Leo stepped back, his eyes tracing the lines and colors he'd laid down, each a word in the silent language of his soul. The studio light flickered, casting a brief shadow that danced across the room before settling upon one of his paintings. In that fleeting moment, a shadow within the painting, a figure cloaked in the ambiguity of his subconscious, shifted, as if stirring to life. Leo's heart skipped a beat, his rational mind grappling with the trickery of light and the susceptibility of an artist's imagination. Yet, as he gazed, the shadow remained still, nothing more than a figment of his creation. Shaking off the unsettling feeling, Leo turned away, deciding the day had exacted its toll on his senses. His paintings, with their undulating forms and ethereal landscapes, were a testament to his talent, but also to his isolation, a barrier between him and the world outside that he both revered and resented. He cleaned his brushes methodically, each stroke against the palm of his hand a ritual to close the day's communion with his art. The city beyond beckoned with its mundane promises and unspoken challenges, a stark contrast to the vivid world he left behind on his canvases. As he locked the door to his studio, the echo of the lock clicking shut resonated a little too deeply, like a final note in a symphony that had long since ended. Leo stepped into the embrace of the city's snowy arms, the cold winter air hitting him like a slap in the face. Chapter 2. The Midnight Station. Snowflakes danced around him, creating a surreal atmosphere that seemed to match the eerie paintings he had just finished. As he walked down the deserted street, his mind was still consumed by the images in his artwork. The snow, relentless in its descent, blanketed the city in a hush, muffling the usual cacophony of urban life. Leo, emerging from the cocoon of his studio, found the streets transformed into corridors of silvery white. The cold bit at his cheeks, a stark contrast to the warmth of his solitary haven where his paintings whispered secrets only he could understand. His boots crunched through the fresh snow, the rhythmic sound a solitary companion in the otherwise silent night. Each breath materialized before him, a ghostly apparition vanishing into the chill air. The city, swathed in winter's embrace, seemed to sleep, its dreams concealed beneath the snowy shroud. In an unexpected encounter, a figure staggered into his path. A disorientated stranger, his steps erratic, eyes glazed with an unspoken knowledge, crashed into Leo. A whisper escaped his lips, raspy and urgent. "Don't turn left at the next alley." The words hung in the air, a warning shrouded in mystery, before the man shuffled away, his form disappearing into the snowy maze of the city. Intrigue nudged at Leo's mind, drawing him toward the very alley the stranger had warned against. The narrow passage, untouched by the city's efforts to clear the snow, lay in darkness, its secrets etched in the untouched blanket of white. Leo's curiosity, piqued by the enigmatic warning, propelled him forward. The alley's frozen embrace closed around him, the crunch of his steps the only sound in the stillness. There, in the snow, lay a trail of footprints, not in a line but a disordered zigzag, as if the maker danced with shadows. Leo's gaze traced the erratic path, a silent testament to the stranger's passage. The alley seemed to stretch on forever, and Leo began to doubt his decision. But then, at the end of the alley, he saw it, a huge opening that he could have sworn wasn't there before. Intrigued, he stepped through the threshold and found himself in an abandoned subway station. Its existence, a mystery unbeknownst to him, stood like a sentinel at the passage's terminus. The faded sign read Midnight Station, a name as enigmatic as the place itself. Descending into the station, Leo felt the weight of the city above dissipate, replaced by an enveloping silence. The platform, a relic of a forgotten era, bore the scars of time. Tiles cracked and worn, the air heavy with the scent of decay. Then, it arrived. The last train home emerged from the depths, its arrival unheralded by sound. The carriages, relics from a bygone era, exuded an aura of mystery, their windows fogged, obscuring the secrets within. The doors slid open with a hushed whisper, revealing the train's guardian, the conductor. Mr. Darius, his name known only to those who had ventured this far, stood at the threshold. His eyes, sharp as a hawk, fixed upon Leo with an unsettling intensity. "Welcome to the last train home." Mr. Darius's voice, deep and resonant, broke the silence. "A journey awaits, one that traverses more than just distance." Leo, taken aback by the conductor's imposing presence, hesitated. "Where does this train go?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Darius smiled, a gesture not quite reaching his eyes. "Where it goes is not the question, Mr. Leo. It's where you need to be. Every journey here is both an escape and a confrontation." Leo's heart raced, a mix of apprehension and a strange, compelling draw to discover the train's mysteries. "How do you know my name? And what do you mean by where I need to be?" "I know the names of everyone the train chooses. The train arrives only when you are ready, even if you don't know it yourself," Mr. Darius replied, stepping aside, an unspoken invitation to board. Leo, standing at the edge of a journey that promised answers to questions he had long ceased asking, took a deep breath. Stepping aboard, he left the familiar behind, entering a world where reality blended with the realms of deeper consciousness. The doors closed with a soft click, sealing Leo's fate. The train, with Mr. Darius at its helm, whispered into motion, embarking on a journey through the night and into the unknown depths of the soul. Chapter 3: A Gathering of Lost Souls. The door to the train carriage creaked open, and Leo stepped into a world suspended in time. The last train home wrapped him in the opulence of a bygone era, where dim lights flickered, casting an otherworldly glow over plush velvet seats and polished wood paneling that whispered forgotten tales. The air felt thick, charged with unspoken stories of the 6 passengers already seated, each turning their head toward him as if drawn by an invisible thread. Mr. Darius, the spectral conductor, glided through the carriage, his presence weaving a dark melody through the air. Each soul aboard is tethered by unvoiced truths, he intoned, his eyes piercing into the facades of each passenger. Ava's presence, a calm oasis in the train's brooding atmosphere, drew Leo's attention. "This train," she murmured, her voice a soft yet ominous echo, "traverses more than the physical realm." Her gaze held the depth of the ocean, stirring a sense of kinship within Leo. Leo, feeling a pull towards her shared sense of mystery, took a seat beside her. Their brief exchange of understanding glances bridged their worlds, setting the foundation for a deeper connection. Mara, the ballerina in her twilight, caught Leo's gaze next. "Our final performance never truly ends," she said, her voice a melancholic echo tinged with the residue of applause and unfulfilled potential. Her hands, still graced with the elegance of a dancer, told their own story of a life spent in the pursuit of perfection. Simon, surrounded by his blueprints, offered a rueful chuckle. "Innovation, it seems, is a lonely companion," he remarked, a shadow of regret flickering across his face, revealing the struggles of a mind brimming with ideas that never saw the light of day. Lila clutched a locket tightly, her eyes a mirror of sorrow. "Some goodbyes echo forever," she whispered, her words resonating with the weight of a past that clung to her like a shadow. Raj sat rigidly, his stoic facade betraying brief flashes of inner turmoil. A sudden defensive gesture, as if warding off an unseen enemy, peeled back a layer of his composed exterior, hinting at the scars of battles etched deep within. Evelyn, shrouded in mystique, gazed into her crystal ball. "The future," she mused, "is often just a reflection of what we hold on to from our past," her voice carrying the weariness of a soul that had danced on the edge of belief and skepticism. Tyler, ensnared in his digital world, looked up briefly. "We weave webs of illusion to escape reality," he muttered, his words revealing a chasm of disconnection that extended beyond the screens that captivated him. As the train jolted into motion, its start was hesitant, as if burdened by the collective weight of each passenger's hidden past. The landscape outside transformed into a surreal tapestry, bending and warping the line between reality and imagination. Mr. Darius's voice echoed, rich with ominous undertones. "Your journey into the heart of your fears and desires begins now," he announced, his gaze lingering on each passenger with unnerving intensity. In that moment, as the train carved its path into the unknown, Leo felt a connection with his fellow travelers, each a pilgrim on a spectral journey to confront their own ghosts. The carriage, alive with the silent whispers of its occupants, became a crucible for transformation, a vessel hurtling through the night towards destinies shrouded in the unknown. Chapter 4. Echoes of a Past Life. In the dimly lit confines of the train carriage, Leo and Ava sat huddled together, their shoulders brushing against each other. The rhythmic clacking of the train on the tracks seemed to mirror the beating of their hearts, creating an intimate bubble in the midst of the mysterious journey. Ava's voice, low and tinged with melancholy, pierced the rhythmic hum of the train. "Years ago, I lost someone I loved in a train accident," she shared, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Ever since then, trains, they've been a haunting reminder of that loss, a symbol I cannot escape." Leo, drawn into the depth of her sorrow, gently encouraged her. "And now you're here," he said softly, prompting her to reveal more. Ava nodded slowly, her gaze distant. "Yes, and I believe this train is more than coincidence. It's a pathway to confront that pain, to face the ghost that's been shadowing me." Their conversation wove a bond of shared understanding, a connection that transcended their individual sorrows and merged into a shared empathy. Ava's eyes swept the carriage, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "Everyone here battles their own ghosts," she explained. She briefly recounted the stories of the other passengers. Mara's shattered dreams, Simon's stolen innovations, Lila's heartbreak, Raj's internal wars, Evelyn's wavering faith, and Tyler's escape into a digital world. Their introspective exchange was abruptly interrupted by a jarring squeak from the train, followed by a haunting, mournful whistle. The sound seemed to vibrate with the hidden fears and anxieties of the passengers. Emerging from the shadows with an almost theatrical flair, Mr. Darius, the enigmatic conductor, commanded the space. "Mara," he called out, his voice echoing through the carriage with a mysterious gravity. "The time has come for your confrontation." A tangible tension filled the air as Mara stood, her figure a silhouette of both fear and determination. She moved towards the rear carriage, her steps echoing in the hushed atmosphere. The other passengers murmured words of support, their voices blending into a tapestry of empathy and solidarity. Leo watched, his mind a whirlwind of questions and doubts. He struggled to comprehend the surreal ritual unfolding before him. Mara entered the next carriage, which transformed before their eyes into a dance studio from her past, a haunting echo of her lost career. The passengers caught fleeting glimpses of her graceful yet torturous confrontation with her memories before the door closed, leaving them with only the faint strains of a haunting melody and the shadow of her dance. Muffled sobs and the melancholic music of a long-lost dance seeped through the closed door, each note resonating with the poignancy of Mara's inner struggle. Leaning casually against the wall, Mr. Darius watched with a sardonic smile. Will she emerge from her past or become its prisoner? He mused aloud, his tone laced with a cryptic curiosity that unsettled the carriage. A sudden piercing scream shattered the tense silence, followed by heart-wrenching cries. Leo stood instinctively, driven by an urge to help. As he stepped forward, Mr. Darius's stern gaze met his, stopping him in his tracks. "This is her path to walk, not ours to intervene," he intoned, his voice a stark warning in the midst of the unfolding drama. Ava gently tugged Leo back to his seat. "We must not interfere," she whispered, her eyes reflecting a blend of fear and understanding. "Each journey here is a solitary one." The train lurched forward, resuming its enigmatic journey into the night. The carriage fell into a heavy silence, each passenger lost in their thoughts, contemplating Mara's fate and the confrontations that awaited them. A mix of anticipation and unspoken questions lingered in the air. Had Mara found resolution, or was she lost forever in the echoes of her past life? Chapter 5. Shadows of Invention. The last train home, a vessel adrift in time, hummed with an undercurrent of tension. In the dimly lit carriage, Leo and Ava sat across from Simon, their shadows merging with the flickering light. The rhythmic clatter of the train seemed to echo the quiet apprehension building in the air. Ava's voice, soft yet resonant, broke the silence. "Simon, what brings you to this train?" she inquired, her eyes reflecting a blend of curiosity and empathy. Simon's gaze, clouded with memories, shifted towards the window where the blurred landscapes passed in a ghostly procession. "I was once an inventor, a dreamer of dreams," he began, his voice a tapestry of pride and sorrow. "But my life's work was stolen, my name erased from the annals of innovation. I boarded this train seeking a reckoning, a chance to reclaim what was rightfully mine." As Simon's tale unwound, Lila approached, her presence adding a layer of solemnity to their gathering. She sat beside them, her voice a mere whisper. "Have you ever wondered about the conductor?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and intrigue. "I saw him once through the carriage window. His form was not of this world, more shadow than man, elongated and dark, a figure that seemed to defy the very laws of nature." Their conversation was suddenly interrupted by Mr. Darius's chilling presence. He emerged from the shadows at the front of the carriage, his grin unnaturally wide, not reaching the cold depths of his eyes. "Simon," he announced, his voice echoing with a haunting timbre. "Your moment to confront your stolen legacy has arrived." The train let out a piercing screech, jolting to a sudden, unnerving halt. The sound seemed to resonate with the collective fears of the passengers, amplifying the tension that hung in the air. Simon rose slowly, his every movement heavy with a cocktail of anger, regret, and unresolved frustration. As he made his way toward the rear carriage, he cast a forlorn glance back at Leo and Ava, his eyes conveying a silent message of farewell, laced with despair. The door to Simon's carriage swung open, revealing an inventor's workshop filled with the ghosts of his creations. The passengers caught a fleeting glimpse of Simon's confrontation with his past, a haunting echo of unfulfilled dreams and bitter betrayals, before the door slammed shut, sealing his fate. From within, Simon's screams for help tore through the carriage, his voice laced with desperation and fear. "Let me out. I can't face them," he pleaded, the sound of his anguish reverberating off the walls. Mr. Darius's laughter, cold and mocking, filled the space, sending shivers down the spines of the passengers. "There's no escape from one's own ghosts," he said, reveling in the unfolding drama. "This is his battle to fight, alone and unaided." As the train resumed its journey, a heavy pall of dread settled over the carriage. Simon did not return, nor did he disembark at any stop. The passengers were left in a state of horrified speculation, their minds racing with thoughts of Simon's fate. The atmosphere grew heavier, a tangible sense of fear enveloping them as they contemplated the confrontations that awaited each of them. Chapter 6. The Playground of Regret. In the dimly lit carriage of the last train home, an air of foreboding lingered. Leo, Ava, and Lila sat together, their conversation a low murmur of apprehension about the enigmatic conductor. The train's rhythmic clatter seemed to underscore their unease, a soundtrack to their shared dread. Evelyn, her face ghostly pale, rushed to their table. "I've seen something in my crystal ball, something horrifying," she gasped, her eyes wide with fear. A black fog teeming with countless staring eyes. "It's as if the very essence of the train is watching us." Leo's brows furrowed in concern. "Has anyone tried to explore the train, to escape or confront the conductor?" he asked, his voice tinged with a mix of determination and trepidation. Ava shook her head, her eyes dark with memory. "I was the first to board. The fear here is palpable, suffocating. No one has dared to challenge this journey or its conductor." The conversation was interrupted as they approached Tyler, who seemed more absorbed in his digital world than ever. "It's a futile endeavor," Tyler muttered without looking up, his words a dismissal shrouded in resignation. "This train, its conductor, they're beyond what we know, beyond what we can challenge." As they pondered this grim reality, Mr. Darius materialized before them, his grin unsettlingly wide. "Lila," he announced with a chilling glee, "it's your turn to face the past." His tone darkened as he leaned closer. "A passenger once tried to flee, only to encounter our guardian beast," he whispered. "A monstrous creature with eyes like burning coals, saliva dripping from its fanged maw." His tale sent a shudder through the carriage. Lila, her face a mask of fear, slowly stood and approached the next carriage. The door swung open to reveal a playground, a place of childhood innocence now twisted into something macabre. She hesitated, her voice trembling. "Isn't there another path?" she pleaded. Mr. Darius's reply was a cold, mocking, "There is no other way." As Lila disappeared into the carriage, the door closed with an ominous thud. Silence enveloped the space, heavy and expectant. The train plunged into a tunnel, casting the carriage into darkness. In those fleeting moments of total blackout, the passengers felt an intense surge of dread. Emerging into the dim light on the other side, they were met with a startling realization. Ava's seat was now empty. Her sudden disappearance left a chilling void, heightening the fear that gripped them all. The remaining passengers sat in stunned silence, the reality of their predicament dawning with brutal clarity. What had become of Ava? Was this the fate that awaited each of them? Leo's mind raced with questions, his gaze fixed on the empty seat where Ava had been just moments before. The train, with its relentless journey, offered no answers, only a deepening mystery wrapped in the shadows of regret. Chapter 7. War's Endless Cycle. As the last train home snaked its way through the night, its carriages steeped in an atmosphere thick with silent apprehensions and unspoken fears, Leo felt as if he were walking through a living, breathing embodiment of the passengers' darkest memories. Each corner of the train echoed with the remnants of haunted pasts, with the conductor, a spectral entity, subtly orchestrating these terrifying reenactments. In one carriage, ethereal light flickered, casting ghostly shadows. The air was thick with the electric tension of unspoken fears, manifesting as ephemeral whispers echoing the innermost horrors of the passengers. The conductor, in his enigmatic way, had become a puppeteer of their darkest memories. Evelyn, her face a canvas of worry and age, approached Leo. Her voice, fragile as autumn leaves, revealed her deepest secret. One night, the train appeared as if conjured by my deepest despair. My life was in ruins, my belief, my followers, all gone. This train seemed like a refuge, an escape from a world that had turned its back on me. Leo absorbed her words as a spectral figure appeared briefly in the corridor, its presence a chilling whisper of the train's sinister purpose. The figure, akin to the conductor in its ghostly essence, seemed to mock the idea of escape, of freedom. Whispers about the conductor's past began to weave through the carriage, tales of a man once driven by great ambition, who, in his quest to master fate, became ensnared by it. His soul, now bound to the endless journey of the train, was doomed to shepherd the lost souls who boarded it. The train jerked to a sudden, jarring halt, the screech of its whistle tearing through the air. Mr. Darius, with a disconcerting smile, appeared before them. "Raj, it is your turn," he declared, his voice dripping with a dark, anticipatory pleasure. Raj stood, his figure a silhouette of a soldier bracing for his final battle. He moved towards his designated carriage, each step an echo of his war-torn past. The door swung open to reveal a vivid battlefield, a visceral reenactment of his deepest trauma. The sights, the sounds, the smell of war enveloped him, a hauntingly accurate depiction of his haunted memories. Amidst the chaos of battle, Raj's eyes were drawn to a woman in the scene, a figure he had been haunted by, believing it was his bullet that had ended her life. But as he watched, frozen, he saw the truth unfold. The bullet came from another direction, from another's gun. This moment of clarity, this revelation shattered the shackles of his guilt and allowed him to find a peace he thought was forever out of reach. With newfound resolution, he chose to step off the train, his departure a silent victory over his past. In the wake of Raj's exit, the carriage was steeped in a contemplative silence. Tyler, further withdrawn into his digital realm, seemed almost a ghost among them, his isolation deepening under the conductor's subtly manipulative gaze. The remaining passengers sat in a daze of reflection, each ensnared in their own cycle of regret and despair. The conductor, a phantom of tragedy and enigma, watching over them, his past a tapestry of ambition turned to eternal servitude. Chapter 8. The Fortune Teller's Dilemma. The dim, melancholic lighting of the last train home's carriage cast long shadows as Leo, engulfed in a sea of confusion, pondered over Ava's inexplicable disappearance. His mind whirled with unanswered questions, each thought a tangled knot of doubt and disbelief. Compelled by a mix of desperation and determination, Leo confronted the conductor. "Where is Ava?" What happened to her? His voice was a blend of accusation and plea. The conductor, with an expression of bemused confusion, replied coolly, "Ava, there is no such passenger on this train." His words hung in the air, a chilling sentence that echoed in the hollows of Leo's heart. Retreating to where Evelyn sat, her crystal ball and tarot cards laid out like mysterious treasures, Leo sought answers. "Do you remember Ava? Can you see where she vanished to?" he implored, his voice tinged with a desperate hope. Evelyn's gaze, clouded with perplexity, met his. "Ava, I have not encountered such a person on this train," she responded, her words slicing through the thin veil of hope Leo clung to. Leo's heart sank as he grappled with the eerie possibility that the train had ensnared his mind, weaving illusions that felt painfully real. The line between reality and fantasy blurred, leaving him adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Evelyn, peering into the depths of her crystal ball, inhaled sharply. Her eyes, wide with revelation, reflected a flickering light. "Centuries ago, a woman named Ava was aboard this train," she whispered, her voice laced with a haunting tremor. "She was swallowed by the train's malevolent spirit, her soul ensnared in its cold, metallic grasp. The conductor, he played a vile part, driving past her stop, denying her a chance to face her past. Ava's life, her very essence, was stolen, imprisoned within these walls." The train shuddered to a halt, its whistle cutting through the tension like a sharp blade. Mr. Darius emerged, his presence a dark omen, his eyes, cold and void of empathy, fixed on Evelyn. This time, his words were not mere announcements, but tormented barbs, laced with the cruelty of her past. Her loss of faith, her descent into skepticism, the haunting shadows of self-doubt. Evelyn stood, her stature unyielding, her eyes alight with a newfound fire. "I have rediscovered my belief," she declared, her voice ringing with clarity and strength. "I know of Ava, of your treachery. You betrayed your promise to the train, to her. Your actions condemned her soul." The train itself seemed to resonate with Evelyn's words, emitting a deep, mournful roar that vibrated through the carriage. The conductor, struck by her accusations, recalled Ava with a pained grimace. "It's your turn," he mumbled, retreating hastily to the front, his sobs a faint echo in the distance. As the door to Evelyn's carriage opened, she turned to Leo. "Fear not," she reassured him. "Ava is here to guide you. She will return." In her carriage, Evelyn faced her skepticism amid mystical symbols and relics, her intuition now a guiding light. Embracing this renewed sense of self, she stepped off the train, her departure a testament to her reclaimed power. Meanwhile, Tyler, lost in his digital world, sank deeper into his virtual isolation, his connection to reality fraying with each passing moment. His detachment grew, nurtured by the conductor's subtle encouragement, a lone figure adrift in a sea of bytes and pixels. The train resumed its relentless journey, its dwindling passengers ensnared in their own contemplative silence, each pondering the mysterious fates that awaited them in the echoing chambers of the last train home. Chapter 9. The Artist's Labyrinth. The last train home, now a vessel of both mystery and revelation, continued its relentless journey through the night. Leo, his heart heavy with unanswered questions and burgeoning fears, found himself wandering into a carriage unlike any other. The walls were adorned with canvases, each a chaotic swirl of colors and shapes, mirroring the tumultuous storm in his psyche. As he moved deeper into the labyrinthine space, the path twisted and turned, an endless maze that seemed to echo his own spiraling thoughts. Each turn revealed another aspect of his struggles, canvases depicting shadowy figures and distorted landscapes, a visual representation of his inner turmoil. Amidst the twisting corridors of the carriage, the conductor appeared, his presence now a familiar yet unsettling part of the journey. "This train," he began, his voice low and enigmatic, is a journey through the soul. Not all who board find their way out. His words lingered in the air, a chilling prophecy that echoed in the claustrophobic confines of the labyrinth. Leo's journey through the carriage became a metaphorical descent into his own fears and doubts. The paintings grew darker, more abstract, as if each brushstroke was a manifestation of his deepest insecurities and unspoken nightmares. As Leo explored, he realized an eerie truth. Each passenger existed simultaneously in the shared carriage and in their own personal nightmare. It was as if the train was a prism, refracting their souls into fragments of their darkest fears and regrets. In a moment that marked his lowest point, Leo encountered a nightmarish tableau aboard the train, a surreal scene that encapsulated his deepest fears. The figures in the painting seemed to move, their whispers a cacophony that drowned out his thoughts, pulling him deeper into despair. Meanwhile, the remaining passengers, each isolated in their own carriages of reflection, faced their critical moments. The air was thick with the weight of despair and revelation, each person grappling with the ghosts of their past and the uncertain promise of their future. As Leo stood in the heart of the labyrinth, surrounded by the twisted manifestations of his fears, he realized the true challenge of the journey. It was not just about confronting the past, but navigating the intricate maze of his own mind. The realization was both terrifying and liberating, a paradox that left him standing at the precipice of self-discovery. The train, a relentless entity, moved through the night, its whistle a haunting reminder of the journey still unfolding. Each passenger, locked in their personal struggle, was unaware of the collective odyssey they shared, each searching for a way out of their own labyrinthine despair. Chapter 10. The Last Decisions. The labyrinthine journey through his psyche left Leo disoriented yet enlightened, as he stumbled back into the carriage where Tyler sat, lost in his digital world. The air felt heavier here, laden with the weight of unresolved pasts and spectral presences. As he regained his bearings, Leo's eyes fell upon Ava, sitting serenely in her usual spot, as if she had never vanished. With a mixture of relief and urgency, he hastened towards her and sank into the seat beside her. "Ava, what happened to you?" he asked, his voice laden with concern. Ava looked up, her eyes brimming with unshed tears, her form flickering like a faltering candle flame. I often forget my own story," she said, her voice a melancholy whisper. As she spoke, her body shimmered, revealing her true nature as a ghost, a being not of earthly matter. With a sorrowful tone, Ava recounted her tale, a narrative of loss and betrayal by the conductor. "I don't even know the year anymore, or what happens when I'm not here," she confessed, her expression one of profound sadness. She warned Leo against confronting the conductor, fearing he might suffer the same fate she had endured. A life stolen, a chance forever lost. Leo's expression hardened with determination. "Is there no way to free you from this train?" he asked, hope flickering in his eyes. Ava shook her head, her form flickering in and out of visibility. "There is no escape for me, no savior from this eternal torment. I am forever trapped within these walls," she replied, her voice echoing the resignation of her fate. The train suddenly jolted to a halt, its whistle piercing the silence. The conductor emerged, his form more grotesque than ever. His lower body had transformed, now resembling the limbs of a four-legged beast rather than anything human. His voice, now deeper and laced with a guttural growl, boomed through the carriage. "Tyler, your time has come," he declared, his eyes beginning to glow with a molten, lava-like intensity. Tyler, pale and trembling, rose to his feet. Clutching his digital devices close to his chest, he asked in a voice barely above a whisper, "What if I choose to stay?" The conductor's laugh was a terrifying sound, his mouth twisting into an impossibly large maw, dripping with saliva like a rabid animal. His transformation into a werewolf-like creature was almost complete. He stepped closer to Tyler, his hot breath brushing against the young man's cheek. "If you stay, the train will devour your body, and your soul will be consumed by its walls, leaving you in an eternal torment of your own making, yet fueling the train's engine," growled the conductor, his words a sinister promise. Tyler, his face a mask of sheer terror, stumbled back. The open carriage door behind him revealed a room filled with computers, pulsating with a sinister, almost living energy. The sight seemed to embody his deepest fears and addictions. As Tyler crossed the threshold into the carriage, the door slammed shut with a resounding bang. The sound echoed through the now nearly empty carriage, where Leo sat, a lone witness to the unfolding horror. In the haunting silence that followed, Tyler's screams for mercy reverberated through the walls. His shouts were filled with panic, as if he were battling unseen forces, his digital haven transformed into a nightmarish prison. Leo, left alone with Ava's flickering spirit, felt a chill run down his spine. The train, once a mere vehicle of passage, had revealed its true nature, a predator feeding on the souls and fears of its passengers. As the realization sank in, Leo glanced around. The conductor, the architect of their torment, had vanished as mysteriously as he appeared, leaving behind a suffocating atmosphere of dread and despair. Ava, her ghostly form a constant reminder of the train's malevolent power, turned towards Leo. Her eyes, though sad, held a glimmer of solace. "You're not alone," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant echoes of Tyler's pleas. In the oppressive quiet of the carriage, Leo's mind raced. The fate of the passengers, the twisted machinations of the conductor, and Ava's eternal entrapment weighed heavily on him. He realized that the train was more than a journey. It was a trial, a test of one's soul and resolve, and he was yet to face his final decision. Chapter 11. The Final Stop. The Last Train Home. A harbinger of lost souls and unspoken fears, ground to a halt at its final destination. The whistle, a haunting dirge, pierced the stillness of the carriage. From the back door, where Tyler had vanished, emerged the conductor, now a monstrous entity, his form that of a werewolf-like creature, immense and terrifying. His jaw dripped with fresh blood from his elongated teeth, leaving Leo with the horrifying image of Tyler's fate. The conductor's growl reverberated through the carriage, a sound that was both a warning and a command. "Prepare yourself," he snarled at Leo, his voice a guttural echo. "It is your time to face the demons that haunt you." Leo, standing alone in the carriage, felt a surge of emotions as he confronted the prospect of facing his deepest fear. It was a memory he had long repressed, the tragic loss of his sister 10 years ago. He had been at an art gathering when the call came, his sister murdered in her flat. The guilt of that day weighed heavily on him, a burden he had carried ever since. He was supposed to be with her that evening, lost in the comfort of their weekly ritual of watching old movies. Instead, he had chosen to attend the college event, sharing his passion for painting. That decision haunted him, the thought that he might have saved her, or that her murderer might have been deterred by his presence. His guilt manifested in his art, each canvas at his flat a reflection of the dark thoughts that consumed him. Ava's comforting presence, though spectral and fleeting, gave Leo the courage he needed. Her ghostly form, a flicker of light in the dark carriage, encouraged him to confront the past that had shackled him in sorrow and regret. The conductor, in his final interaction with Leo, was an ominous yet enlightening presence. His words, though laced with the ferocity of his beastly form, hinted at a deeper understanding of Leo's torment. The door to the next carriage opened, revealing a path that led to Leo's confrontation with his past. The carriage beyond was shrouded in shadows, a realm where reality and memory blurred. With a deep breath, Leo stepped into the carriage, the door closing behind him with a definitive click. What lay ahead was a journey into the heart of his own grief and guilt, a chance to face the tragedy that had defined his existence.